So we are recording and we are streaming.
Okay.
So I've got to admit more people here, and then we'll get started right at 6:30. Now, I don't know if I make somebody a co-host, if they're able to watch. I guess we should have tested this out at some point over the last year, if somebody can watch the participant window for people that come late. Oh, well, I'll just do it like I always do.
I think co-hosts can do that.
Okay.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Michelle, if I make you a co-host, would you mind doing that just in case I forget to?
Ooh, look at all the people.
It's what I do all day, Eric.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to make you I'm making you a co-host. That way,
Yep, and I can see it.
Okay, good.
Not ranch dressing.
Yeah.
So,
it is
All right.
National Ranch Dressing Day.
Oh, wow.
all right. So it's 6:31. I'm going to do them. Well, okay. Michelle, I'll let you watch the participant window.
Yeah, I got it.
I appreciate it.
It's up. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and hit the mute all because it's going to start to get loud in here. But I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to leave everybody at their own discretion to unmute. And if that stops working, I'll change. But otherwise, we're all going to be on the honor system there. Allow participants to unmute themselves. Yes. Okay. All right. Welcome everyone to the March meeting of the Carmel Mountain Ranch Sabre Springs Community Council. It is March 10th, 2021, and it is 6:32 p.m. and we're calling the meeting to order. So the first order of business will be introduction of board members. And if I call your name, just go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself, please. It's a big night, so we'll just let everybody introduce themselves. And I am Eric Edelman. I'm your chairperson, and I am a homeowner and business owner here in Carmel Mountain Ranch and have been here for the past 17 years. Esther, did I see you come in?
You did.
Awesome. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Esther Berry, co-chair, and I guess attending my last meeting as co-chair. Good luck to the incoming member.
Thank you, Esther. Ryan Yamasaki.
Hi, Ryan Yamasaki, homeowner, Carmel Mountain Ranch.
Welcome, Ryan. Dan Thompson.
Dan Thompson, business representative and also homeowner in Carmel Mountain Ranch since beautiful 1988.
Wow. All the way back to the beginning. John Chu.
Hi, John Chu, homeowner in Carmel Mountain Ranch.
Thank you, John. Rich Craigie.
Hi, Rich Craigie, homeowner, Carmel Mountain Ranch. I'm a youngin' here, it's just 16 years only.
John Schroeder.
John Schroeder, Carmel Mountain Ranch, a homeowner for 17 years.
Thank you, John. Mark Clark.
Homeowner, Carmel Mountain Ranch.
Thank you, Mark. Michelle Mullen.
Homeowner, Carmel Mountain.
Thank you. Joseph Valencia. Joseph Valencia. All right. Maybe Joe will come in later. Somebody let me know if they see Joe pop in. Kurt Carlson.
Good afternoon, everybody. Homeowner, Kurt Carlson, since 1986.
Thank you, Kurt. Silva Salehi. Silva. Okay, well, if Silva isn't here, that means Majid Lasharian isn't here either. They might pop in. So we're missing 3. So we have, let's see, 12, 11, 10, 9 of us, I guess. Okay, that's a quorum anyway. So let's push forward. And if anybody sees Majid and Silva and or Joseph come in, please just, I don't know, chat me or yell at me or whatever. All right, so the roll having been called and establishing a quorum, we will move on to approval of the agenda for this evening. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve. John Schroeder.
Okay, I see Kurt raising his hand. So does that mean you're?
I second it.
Okay, so John Schroeder make the motion. Kurt Carlson seconds the motion. Anyone opposed to the approval of tonight's agenda? We'll just do it that way. Any opposition or abstention? There being none, we will assume that passed unanimously. Okay, and I sent out minutes for January and February. Do I have a motion to approve those? Dan Thompson.
Motion.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second? Ryan Yamasaki, second. Anyone abstaining or objecting to approval of those minutes? All right, those January and February minutes are approved and will be sent into the city. And those are fairly brief minutes as they contain the attendance information and any other actions that were taken, and then a link to the YouTube video, which is a very accurate representation of the meeting. So with that, we will move along to non-agenda public comment. Do I have non-agenda public comment? Either chat or unmute. Harold?
Yeah, I have a short thing. Since Mayor Gloria isn't going to be here, but I see that Marnie's rep is here, Jack.
Yep.
I was going to speak that I've come to the conclusion that there's some systemic issues that put the homeowners at a distinct disadvantage. And particularly, it seems like there's, in this whole experience, the New Urban West really didn't have any incentive to make changes on our behalf or negotiate with us. They talked to us and gave us some, bits of candy, but nothing substantial. And I think that's unfortunate, but that's the way that the system is set up right now. And that's what's really happening. And in the end, it's a detriment to the city. In the end, it's not going to be a good thing for everybody. So that was all I was going to say. And I'd like to see some investigation into, or take a look at what the operating instructions are for the Planning Commission and just the whole system. The fact that there's really only one vote, and that's at the end of the whole process. So instead of engaging the community early on during the process, during their planning, New Urban West had the whole project planned out to start with, except they said, well, we'll do some landscaping and we'll do a park or here or there, whatever we need to do. But they have the substance of it, the number of units and the location of the units all done. That was quite clear. And so, but there's no vote on anything until the Planning Commission. And so, the really only substantial feedback opportunity is the EIR report. And even that doesn't really have much power. So anyway, that's just my observation about the way the whole system's set up now.
And Harold, if I may, I do share some of the same questions that you have, particularly, about the EIR process. And I did have an opportunity to sit down with the city attorneys to talk to them about that. And I'll include what I got from that interaction in my report.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, thank you, Jack. Thank you, Harold. And I see somebody else is messaging me privately about having a question for Jack, but I'm going to ask you to hold off until it's his spot on the agenda, and then you can ask him whatever you'd like. Any other non-agenda public comment? Kurt, you have non-agenda public comment?
Yeah, I do, and I'm sort of tagging on to Harold Klotz's comments.
Well, his comment was, I mean, pertaining to New Urban West, which is on the agenda. So, is it?
Well, the comments that, okay. Well, the only thing, I guess I could talk about it later, but there are.
Oh, go ahead. What the heck?
There are a number of subcommittee, a number of how we say workshops that were held by New Urban West over at the clubhouse. And in going through all these sheets that were available for everybody to see, and I should have scanned them so you could see them. A lot of them were never addressed. A lot of the comments on these subcommittee notes that were made by New Urban West, and they passed them back out to everybody. And if anybody's, willing to go back and look at it, we're talking about things like, views, we're talking about housing types, we're talking about traffic, parking, we're talking about avoiding walls of housing, avoid cluster housing. We never got a chance to even talk about those things. It was dropped on us at the 18th meeting of the community groups that we have here tonight. The 18th meeting, we were given what the housing types were going to be. It took that long to get to us to communicate when we were asking the whole time. That's the only thing I want to drop out there.
Okay, thank you. Any other non-agenda public comment? We will definitely be talking about New Urban West this evening. Okay, I'm hearing and seeing no other non-agenda public comment. So let's move through our regular agenda, and as someone...
Eric, there's a comment in the chat. Simon wants to talk about street conditions.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Michelle. And also I noticed that Joseph Silva and I assume Majid did join the meeting. Joseph, do you want to introduce yourself?
Let me go ahead first.
Go ahead, Silva.
Silva Salehi, we're a business owner and residents of Carmel Mountain Ranch.
Majid Moshirian, resident of Carmel Mountain Ranch.
Thank you.
Joe Valencia, resident.
All right, Joe Valencia, Silva Salehi, and Majid Moshirian did join us, so we have all 12 of our currently seated board members present. So thank you all for being here. And then Simon, if you have a comment on street conditions, please go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have up to 3 minutes.
Yeah, my problem with there are even possible the craters on Carmel Mountain Ranch and World Trade Drive, Highland Ranch Road, especially due to the commercial traffic that's going on around there. And I've been using the city's app to log on for the past pretty much 3-4 years. And especially with the recent rains that we've been having, these potholes are getting to be really, really big, especially on the, I believe it's a Sea Bridge Lane and Carmel Mountain Ranch, pretty much anything around the shopping mall around here. These are good 5, 6. There's one that collected data that's 9 inches deep, and it's wanting to run over those potholes with a truck or a car. But if one of our neighbors or somebody runs over them with a, God forbid, a motorcycle or a small car, we're gonna have thousands very soon. So it's something, I don't know if the city or if someone's able to contact the city, because every time I contact the city, there's some, well, they have to repave the street, and they're looking into it for the past 3-4 years, especially on World Trade Drive on the back street that goes between the apartments all the way to the library over here in Carmel Mountain. I don't know if that's been addressed before or not, but that's the main thing. The other one, in regard to the golf course, there's some situation regarding the vagrants and the homeless folks sleeping or camping overnight, especially on the tunnels underneath the street and by the tunnel, especially the one adjacent to the library and Eastbourne Road. Somebody might want to look into that too. And that was, I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Simon. We do have our city council person's representative here in the room, and we'll address that question to him in just a minute. We have definitely had street issues before. Several years ago, Rancho Carmel Drive was the primary road of concern, and after a lot of pushing from us and help from the city council person's office at that time, eventually it was resurfaced. So I imagine a similar effort will eventually result in help from the city, although I know they have a lengthy list of roads that they're waiting to resurface. So we'll address that question to Jack when we get to him in the meeting. And then regarding the homeless or people sleeping, I imagine our neighborhood police officer might be able to at least address that question, and she is next. So are there any other non-agenda public comments? Okay, then I will do what I said, and we'll move along to the neighborhood police report from Officer Julie Dratt.
Hi, good evening. Just a few things in the area. So obviously with the commercial businesses, there have been a few commercial burglaries in the area, unfortunately. As far as vehicle burglaries, those are still up and happening. Just please, I know that people are going back to work, but then we still have those that are still working from home. But just keep in mind, even though you're at home and your vehicle's outside, please do not leave items in the vehicle. Anything that, whether it may look like a cord to a phone, or even if it's just an, I don't know if people have them anymore, but I can't think of the name of it. Obviously not Walkmans, but any musical items, if you will, even though it's not a phone, it's something of value to somebody. So it's not worth having a window broken just for something like that, just as an example. So just please remember to take items out of vehicles, lock your vehicles. Other than that, we are actually, when I say we, our Northeastern Division is partnering with our School Safety Patrol, along with Our Father Grace Ministries. We're holding a drive-through food collection. It'll be at Sunset Hills. It's on Saturday, March 20th. I know there's other sites in the area, but it just happens to be that there'll be a couple of us officers there with the School Safety Patrol and that. And again, it's just a drive-through food collection, and it benefits food for the San Diego Food Bank. So come out and join us and support the community. And I will open for questions. I didn't get the whole question. Somebody had something about homeless. Other than that, whoever has that question or what the question is, please let me know.
Yes, I think I can reiterate it, unless Simon wants to unmute and re-ask it. But he was asking about homeless people, or assumed homeless people, sleeping in and around the tunnels that were previously used by golf carts. And I guess the question would be, who do we contact if we have a concern about something like that?
Okay, so in regards to that, so depending as far as the tunnels and depending on where they're located, whether it's considered private property of the golf course, again, there's a couple ways to handle that. You can report homeless encampments on the Get It Done app. and the that unit can actually determine if it's private property or if it's considered city property. So that is probably one of the best ways to handle that for the homeless encampments. So that way they can, again, go out and a couple of things will happen. They can be offered services through the homeless outreach team. They'll be offered services to, you know, try to put them into some kind of a shelter. If they refuse that, then again, we basically we encourage them and just let them know that they can't be sleeping if it's on private property, things like that. So just again, you can again do it on the Get It Done app, and it's under homeless encampments, and then it will be handled that way. If it's anything regards to, again, maybe homeless sleeping there, but if there's suspicious activity going on, they might be doing other things. For example, if they're lighting fires because they're trying to heat food, that's something, again, you need to call into the non-emergency number and report it that way, so that can be handled immediately. So hopefully that helps answer the question.
I think so. And then you guys did at some point get some sort of, I forget what you called it, but you have essentially permission to enter the golf course property if you need to.
Yeah, it's a letter of authorization, and that's something that again, can assist us with handling those issues. But again, if that's the case, you're going to have to call, like I say, if it's homeless encampments, please report that on Get It Done. If it's an issue that has to be handled right up front, the letter of agency does assist us with being able to take enforcement action with the owner's permission. All right. Thank you for that. Okay, any other questions for Officer Dratt this evening? You can, I don't have it locked up, so you can just unmute and ask a question if you have one, or type it in the chat and I'll ask it.
Actually, yes, in regard to that first issue I brought up regarding the potholes, don't the officers, when they patrol the area, collect data in regard to the road condition? They do drive on the roads, don't they?
Sir, that is not something that we handle because we don't fix potholes. It has to go through streets divisions, what have you not. So that's why you can report that through the Get It Done app.
Right, but if something that's dangerous to the public, some of these potholes are there.
Yeah, we don't collect data. We don't take care of that. No, not now. If it's something that's, you know, we're driving it is a huge pothole, we feel that it's going to be a major endangerment. Yes, that is something that we would let the streets division know. However, you guys live in the area, drive those again all the time. So that's something that would have to be put in on the Get It Done app. And then that's how they collect all that data to keep track of everything.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, Kurt, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Officer Dratt. How are you doing?
Good, sir. Thank you.
So my question is, are you involved in the review of the New Urban West plans at all? Or, you know, in terms of safety and security?
Only if something is brought up into question. So it depends on where that could be kind of a broad question. Because obviously with new developments, you have more people in the area. So if it's in response to, you know, maybe calls for service or something like that, we might be able to answer that. But it's not something, unless it's brought up to our attention, that we would review, if that makes sense.
So one of the questions I had was that New Urban West is planning to allow public access for these trails that are going to be going, reusing the golf cart pathways and turning them into public trails. Now, all the development is for the homes along the golf course, the old golf course, have open fencing. So my question to you is, and I think there's been a lot of concern expressed about how the public now has access into people's backyards visually or, you know, being able to be closer to their backyards, because the golf course was private before and now it's, you know, wide open. And I guess that's something that I would think you might have a concern, or at least that, you know, as a homeowner myself living on the golf course, concerns about predators, burglars having access, you know, already, you know, this is like through the backyards now too. So this is like, they're not on the streets, so they're not able to be seen. And at nighttime, these trails, you know, we don't know you know, the developer wants to move these trails really close in some instances to the back of the fence, and there's only 50 feet of buffer that they're proposing, which we're asking it should be double that. And my question to you is that it would be great, are you guys, the police department, going to review these plans for safety and security measures? But it's going to make your job a little tougher if they're doing something that really doesn't help protect homeowners in the community.
So that's a really good question. That's something I do not have an answer to. Typically, I don't, at my level, no. I have not reviewed something when building plans come into place for that. I mean, it'd be something that, for example, if it's ran by an HOA, they can determine how much lighting, if it's bright or low lighting, so it doesn't, you know, light up the neighbors' homes too much, if that makes sense, you know, to be a distraction. So that, again, that would be something to be ran through like an HOA with that. And then I know there's other areas that have, you know, that are off the golf courses that are, you know, they can go right from the greens into the people's backyards. If it's so, honestly, I don't have that answer because I don't know if, again, if that's something that HOA with the lighting, and then with the homeowners, if that's an agreement that has to be put into place when that's put together. So it'd be something I'd have to look into, but at my level, I've never reviewed anything in regards to that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Officer Dratt? All right, I don't see any others coming in, Officer Dratt, so we really appreciate you being here as always, and thank you for your service to our city. And you're welcome to stay and free to go, I guess.
All right, thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. All right. Do we have representative from CMR Fire? I don't think so. State Senator's office. Brian Jones, no. Assembly Member Mainshine's office. Rick, are you here? Rick Hauptfield. I have not seen him for a while. Maybe he was here last time. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong. San Diego County Supervisor's office. Evelyn, are you here? Thought I saw Evelyn Andrade come in. Maybe I'm wrong.
She's having some problems connecting to her audio, so maybe we should come back to her.
Oh, thanks, Jack. All right. Yep, we'll do that. You're unmuted, so why don't you go ahead, Jack Hoprich from Marnie von Wilpert's office.
Thank you, Eric. Hey, everybody. So before I go into my updates for you guys, I just want to put this out there for the board members and any other interested parties listening in tonight. Just some clarifications I'd like to make so that there aren't any misunderstandings. As your community representative, I believe my main responsibility is to be an advocate for you in this community. It's in my job title. This past month, I had an opportunity to sit down with a few city attorneys and relay some of the more pressing questions put forth by you guys about the Trails project, specifically about the EIR. And in that meeting, I did my best to be an advocate for you. I asked questions you put forth on the scale of the project, how it got to be where it is right now, where comparable projects in the area are no more than 600 units. I asked about the fire evacuation routes and how those calculations were made. I asked about who at the city actually determines whether or not the content of the EIR is accurate, but also whether or not things are also being given in good faith. Those are valid questions that you put forward, not me, not the council member, in which I am allowed to ask the city attorney about on your behalf. However, there is a chance that the city attorneys I was meeting with were rubbed the wrong way as I was trying to relay your questions in the way that I believed you guys would want them asked. As you all well know, our office is not allowed to take a position on this project before it comes to city council for a vote. If we do take a position, we risk having to make Councilmember Von Wilpert recuse herself from the vote. So I need to be careful going forward when I am being an advocate for your positions in this project. And they are your positions. They are not mine. They are not the council members. It is imperative that it does not seem like our office is endorsing any of your positions for the time being. That being said, I will continue to be an advocate for you. I do, however, need to be cautious in that effort so as not to appear to be taking a position. So with that, we'll get back to business. Code enforcement violations keep rolling in. It is business as usual on the golf course. Feel free to send any of your neighbors my way if they have big tree branches falling into their yards or any other issues relating to the overgrow. I'm happy to continue taking those emails and directing you to the proper city department. Simon brought up street conditions. I think it was Rick or somebody chatted the best way to report those types of spot fixes is to use the Get It Done app. Get It Done can also, like Officer Drock said, can be used to report homeless encampments. As for some of the street repavings in CMR and District 5 altogether, the city did have an overlay contract, which was going to repave many of the roads across D5, but that contract fell through sometime this past year. So Transportation and Stormwater is looking at ways to resolve that situation. Also in this past month, Officer Drock has brought to my attention the issue of trespassing and subsequent mountain biking on the golf course. This is the first time hearing of a problem with trespassing on the golf course, but rest be assured, Officer Dract and I will continue to monitor the situation at the community level and take action as needed. Last but not least, in this past month, I've been in touch with Eric and Troy to see about organizing an opportunity for somebody from the planning department to actually come out to one of our meetings here and answer some of the questions you guys have. We're thinking that'll be possible for the April meeting. If for some reason we can't get a staffer from the planning department out for a meeting, then I will at least take questions from you all, send them over to that department on your behalf so that we may at least get some answers. I'll be keeping Eric posted on how that might look throughout the next month. And with that, I yield my time and would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Simon asks, was the issue of eminent domain and asset forfeiture in regard to the golf course been addressed to the new city council after the election? I assume that's not something that's come up yet.
No, it has not.
Yeah,
I can look into that if you'd like, Simon. If that's something you'd be interested in, go ahead and drop me a line separately through an email. I'll go ahead and add my email address.
Okay, any other questions, comments for Jack?
Just a quick question. I'll keep it short. I know we're busy tonight. I'm wondering if there's any update on the bid for power for San Diego. Last we heard, SDG&E was the only bidder, and I don't think we've heard an update since then.
So Stephanie may know better than I, but as it is my understanding that the city is about to put out the RFP, the request for bids and proposals. I think that's either already happened or is happening quite shortly. I'm sure Stephanie will touch on that in her report.
Maybe we should form a power company, Rich. Just kidding. All right. So any other questions for Jack? Comments? I'm going to move back.
Question for Jack.
Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
So Jack, just wanted to clarify your earlier comments about trying to advocate for us. Really appreciate you making your efforts. Is the understanding that you were advised from the city attorney that you couldn't even ask questions on our behalf if it was regarding a project? Because I think some of those questions that you brought up were it seems like it could be neutrally answered and not necessarily carrying a position, but because those questions were from people who may hold a position, you're not able to ask those questions?
No. So I'm allowed to ask any question I'd like to. The city attorney can choose to answer that question. Whether or not that answer is satisfactory to you guys or to me, that's a different conversation. But no, as far as my being allowed to ask questions, of course I'm always allowed to ask questions. It's just that there is that possibility that if somebody asks too many questions kind of geared towards one way, then that might imply support or opposition one way or another, which I was just reiterating the fact that although I am relaying your questions, we do not have a position.
Understood. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for that, Jack. Okay, so if there's no other questions for Jack, I'm going to move back up the agenda one position and see if Evelyn Andrade is back with us.
I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Good. Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. Evelyn Andrade, Policy Advisor for Supervisor Lawson Reamer. I just have a few small updates for you all. So last month, the supervisor did put forward a proposal to develop a third round of grant funding for small businesses. This was setting aside $30 million in grant funds for small businesses and nonprofits with 20 or fewer employees. Just wanted to update you all on the timeline of that. We are hoping that funds will be available by mid-April now. And as soon as we start taking applications, we will announce that in our newsletter. So I, again, will put the link in the chat for that. For vaccines and COVID, just for those of you that don't know, we have fully moved into phase 1B, and this includes all older individuals 65 and over, as well as people more likely to be exposed to COVID, like our firefighters, our police officers, grocery store workers, public transportation workers, educators, childcare workers, as well as food and agriculture workers. So if you are in one of those positions, please make sure to try to book your appointment first through your healthcare provider. And if they cannot provide you an appointment, then try to schedule an appointment at any site that's run through the county. We are having issues with getting the vaccines that we are requesting. Currently, we're only getting about 25% of the vaccines that we're requesting, which is why a lot of people are having a hard time making an appointment. But if you do have any issues, especially scheduling your second appointment, I will also put a link in the chat for scheduling your second appointment. Those are currently being prioritized. But also know, depending on the vaccine, there is extra time that you, up to 6 weeks before you run out of time and have to redo the whole set of vaccines. So there is some flexibility with that. The last update I have is that, the supervisor and the board have been working to provide relief for renters or small businesses. And now we are looking to amplify our support for the youth. So in the coming days, our office is introducing a board letter to create a youth environmental/recreational corp. It's a program that, if approved, will provide our youth career readiness, workforce development, and access to green spaces for our low-income youth. It's an opportunity it will focus on youth ages 18 to 24 and provide them jobs at the county or at other nonprofits throughout the county. So we'd love for you all to support our youth with getting them jobs. And I will also be putting in a link in the chat, to sign our petition to get support for our youth. And with that, I will also be putting my email, phone number as usual in the chat. If you do have any questions, you can always reach out to me, but I will also take questions now if anyone has any.
All right. Any questions for Evelyn, San Diego County Supervisor's Office? Kurt, go ahead.
Hi, Evelyn. I have a kind of a out-of-the-box question for you. I think it was last year, there was a housing project that was being proposed up off the 15 and the Deer Springs Road, north of Escondido. This project, because it's in the county, had the distinct advantage to be able to be voted on by the public. It was able to be, if it was a positive project, housing project for the community. City of San Diego does not have that option for projects such as the trails here, for Carmel Mountain Ranch. We have similar issues that we want. We want to protect our open space. We want to protect, our development, our master plan community the way it is. Mm-hmm. But we're not given that opportunity because it's just not the way the city works. Are you aware of any opportunities or any options that would be available for city projects? I mean, is it possible to get our project to be voted on by the community versus having to go through the city development services?
Yeah, so I would say two things. One, I'd have to look into the project that you're specifically referring to in the county by the I-15. I think really the only way for it to go to voters, and this can be done at the county level and at the city level, is through a citizens initiative. So the project that you're referring to was likely appealed by the citizens. So I imagine that possibly the County Board of Supervisors approved the project. The residents were still opposed to it. They collected enough signatures to then put it on the ballot. That's how it typically works. And that can happen at the city level as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Lilac Hills was the project, apparently.
Yep. So that's through Citizens Initiative.
Thank you. Any other questions for Evelyn? Anybody okay? Going once, twice? All right. Thank you so much, Evelyn, for being here. We truly appreciate your presence and attendance at our meetings. It's great to have you here always, and hope to see you again next time. And so that brings us to, San Diego Mayor's Office. Stephanie Estrada.
Hello, everyone. Hi, thanks, Eric.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. Mayor does send his regards for not being able to come to today's meeting. However, I'm looking for another time that he can stop by, hopefully as soon as next month or the month after that. But he does send his regards, and I will be sending the RSVP link to the Meet Your Mayor virtual forum. This will be happening on April 10th. This is for Council District 5 residents. It will be co-hosted by Councilmember Von Wilpert. So this is an opportunity for you all to attend this virtual town hall. We'll have some pre-submitted questions, as well as some time for direct Q&A in the group chat. So that's some fun stuff coming up, and some city updates that I have from the mayor's office is on some school reopenings. So Mayor Gloria has been working with stakeholders in San Diego Unified School District to make sure our students are getting back to the classroom as safe and quickly as possible. So San Diego Unified did provide a clear timeline of a hybrid schedule on February 23rd, and that is announcing that schools will reopen on April 12th. And so as part of our Back to Work SD plan, it's an economic recovery blueprint that calls for schools first, meaning we have to consider any of the reopening that impacts how any reopening of our economy impacts getting schools open and students back into the classroom. In addition, we did announce that the city did launch the Community Choice Energy. So as part of the pledge to keep a more sustainable San Diego, Mayor Gloria did begin with the San Diego Community Power as a community choice aggregator, who's going to be responsible for purchasing the wholesale clean electricity on behalf of the customers in San Diego, but also Chula Vista, Encinitas, La Mesa, and Imperial Beach. So San Diego Community Power will be the community choice aggregator intended to provide clean energy, renewable energy at competitive rates, and investing in innovative programs to benefit the environment and the economy. So San Diego Community Power will source cleaner electricity for approximately 770,000 customer accounts. I can provide that press release. There's more information on that, and I'll put all those links in the chat. And then lastly, the San Diego Library Foundation right now is developing a new master plan, which is open until April 17th. It's a survey. This is just asking for community feedback on just, what you want from the library, what can the library serve your community, and what specific services, technologies, and programs, would help your community. And I can also provide that link in the chat. And then lastly, we are having our virtual Women of Distinction's annual event. This year will be virtual, but we are currently taking nominations that will end as soon as tomorrow. And so I can also provide that link. This is just an opportunity to recognize any women in your community in District 5. And so that is a virtual event that's happening at the end of this month. So I'll put in that nomination link. And then lastly, I know there were some questions on the extension of the franchise agreement. So Mayor Gloria did reach an agreement with SDG&E on an extension to the current gas and electric franchise. That's extended until June 1st, 2021. So there has been community town halls to aggregate community feedback on that. So right now where we're at is just aggregating all that community feedback, making sure that, you know, we understand, you know, the community feedback that's coming from different districts. The ITB, the initiation to bid process, will open very soon. I do not have the actual date on that. But once it does, I can also send Eric kind of an update on that, and he can send that over to you all. But essentially, you know, it's an invitation to bid, so anyone can honestly, you know, be the bidder. Anybody can it's, you know, it's open to anybody. And so once that does happen, you know, seeking all options, and then from there the negotiation process will start. And so that will mean all the community feedback from the, I believe we started around January, February, and then ended I think I would say last month at the end of February. So all that feedback will be taken into account in the negotiation process as Mayor Gloria is choosing that franchise. So I know the community choice, San Diego Community Power will be the energy, and then whoever that bidder is will then supply that energy. So I will put in all those links in there. I know there's a few other things that you all may have questions on, so I'm happy to provide my email.
Okay, thank you for that update on everything. Do we have specific questions for Stephanie Estrada this evening, Mayor Todd Gloria's office? Either chat or just unmute and
I'll take a question if possible.
Is that Simon?
Yes. With the
Simon,
committee power
would you mind stating your full name for the record, please? Can you state
Simon Moghadam, last name Moghadam.
Thank you. Go ahead.
First name Simon, last name Moghadam. Regarding the community choice program, would the negotiations be open to public?
The negotiation process would be with the mayor's office and then the potential bidder. I believe all that would be in. I'll circle back on that one. I don't want to give you any false information or anything that is.
I would appreciate if you do, considering our mayor's background really regarding to that building in downtown. And then second question was like in regard to the public infrastructure and the deficit, the financial deficit we're going to have for this year and the next few fiscal years. Is he planning to generate any revenues?
Well, we are advocating at the federal level and state level. I know right now with the American Rescue Plan that's happening at the federal level, it was passed by the House and then went back. Yeah. So then there was changes proposed. So now it went back to the House and we're kind of waiting on that. But the American Rescue Plan would be provide some type of budget recovery. I know Mayor Gloria has been trying to strategize ways to make sure that he keeps the most essential neighborhood services available, such as our parks and recs, our local libraries, making sure that he ensures to have a healthy balance in the budget.
I understand that, but considering that the mayor is like a local official, does he have any plan for local revenue generating?
I can look into that. I don't put it at the top of my head. Don't really know, but I can get back to you on that. And I'll provide my email if you'd like to follow up individually, or which I can send that information to Eric, whatever deems necessary.
Thank you.
Thank you. Harold Klotz is asking, what are the details of the virtual town hall? Did you say you were going to be sending those out?
Yes, so I'll send that information, but the time is April 10th, and that will be from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Anyone can join. This is a Zoom meeting. I will be moderating on my behalf as the community representative. We'll have Mayor Gloria there. We'll have some panelists as well as Councilmember Von Wilpert present. And so, yes, please be sure to send that information. And on that RSVP link, you'll have an opportunity to submit any questions that you would like to be asked during the forum, and then as well there'll be a present Q&A. So all of Council District 5 will be invited. So please be sure to share that. I know there's a flyer, and so we'll be sending that over.
Okay, thank you. And when I get that information in my inbox, I'll forward it to everybody on my list as well, just to make sure that you all have it. Okay, any other questions at this point for the mayor's office? Okay, there being none, we will continue on. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. And okay, Planning Department, Tony Kempton. I know Michael Prinz from the Planning Department is here. However, he's here tonight in his capacity as the overseeing our potential community plan amendment. So I'm not going to have him address anything in this particular agenda slot. Tony Kempton is not present. Scott Peters' office? No. Okay. In that case, it is time to hear from Jonathan Frankel of New Urban West. And he's going to be requesting an action item. So it is labeled as such on the agenda. Jonathan, are you in here?
Hi, Eric. Good evening.
Good evening. Do you need a screen share?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me find you. And I guess I could probably just click on your picture here. So I'm going to make you a co-host. All right, so how long a presentation do you have for us this evening?
We have a brief presentation this evening. I would anticipate approximately 10 minutes, and then of course would be available for any questions you may have.
Okay.
So just give me one moment while I go ahead and pull up our presentation this evening.
All right, I'm going to lean back and watch.
All right, well, Chair Edelman, members of the board, good evening again. My name is Jonathan Frankel with New Urban West. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to speak to you again about the Trails of Carmel Mountain Ranch. As Eric indicated, we are seeking an action from the board this evening. And so earlier in the meeting, there were some comments regarding our design process and how our design came to be. And I want to start tonight by talking about the 2019 community survey that we conducted and how that really grounded this project and the design. Of course, many of you were at our community workshops that we held at the clubhouse pre-COVID, as well as a number of subsequent workshops that we've held. Of course, I've been here many times since the original project application was submitted. But this community survey, again in 2019, nearly 500 respondents, and we asked a number of questions about amenities, concerns, issues, and this really has been our guide, of course, in addition to the feedback that you have provided during these meetings and other opportunities to engage with you both individually and collectively. So you can see things like what kind of public park and open space amenities, privacy and screening, buffers, and how can we improve the community. And of those 485 respondents, we actually had a very diverse segment of the community respond, including about a quarter of those respondents being renters. And that is a group that we typically don't see here at this meeting. So as you can see, 90% indicated walking trails would be a desired amenity. Certainly pathways for walking and biking, publicly accessible open space, and more parkland were all amenities that were highly desired and requested by the community. And again, this feedback has driven our design. our name for the project, the trails, what we've decided to do with the adaptive reuse of the former golf cart paths, the continuation of the tunnels, amongst other project elements. So of course, Carmel Mountain Ranch community, this community planning area is part of the city of San Diego, and the city has a long-term plan for housing. And it's a component of the city's general plan. It's called the housing element of the general plan. The housing element is required to identify locations where housing can be accommodated. The amount of housing is actually set by the state and allocated by our regional planning organization, the San Diego Association of Governments, or SANDAG. The housing element, the city's plan for housing in the city has identified this property as a housing opportunity site, as a location that's suitable for the accommodation of housing. The city of San Diego will be required to plan for approximately 110,000 units over the next 8-year period. And that number is calculated with respect to both job, population, and household formation. So you can see the housing element strives to provide attainable housing throughout the city so that no single area experiences a disproportionate concentration, increase the city supply of land designated for housing, and seek a community balance amongst other important objectives. So we will be seeking a recommendation from the City Planning Commission as well as the City Council later this year. But back in the summer of 2019, we were at the Planning Commission for an initiation, which allowed us to proceed with this application to submit materials to the City of San Diego for comprehensive review. And so we received a significant amount of feedback from the commissioners during that hearing. Things like open space, inclusion of amenities, also comments about the importance of housing and why that makes this project feasible. So we work, of course, in any project to incorporate balance between the desires of the city, quality planning, of course, our needs as a business, and the community as well. So I mentioned our engagement to date. We've had over 15 in-person community workshops. Many of you attended our workshops that were held at the clubhouse. I believe Kurt mentioned that earlier. On your bottom right is a sketch of our early meetings at the CMR library with the subcommittee and that work. And we talked about parks, amenities, trails, mobility, environmental issues, housing, of course, environmental impacts. In addition to the 15 in person, I mentioned the questionnaire. We've held 10+ virtual workshops and meetings and regular updates to this board, and many one-on-one and small group meetings with neighbors over the past several years. So many of you have signed up, and we've provided regular updates through our website and other forums, ensuring that the latest project plans were posted there and available to members of the public. And so this supported our ongoing engagement effort and updates. So a number of modifications and features that were incorporated into the project as a result of the survey, as a result of the desires of the community with respect to amenities, privacy, amongst other issues. Many of you will recall that initially, when we started the project, we were considering 1,600 units spread on additional acreage throughout the project. That ultimately was lowered to 1,200. Trails were one of the top amenities. In fact, the top, with over 90% of residents indicating that a trail system, publicly accessible but at no cost to residents, would be of value. Precisely why we incorporated a 6.5-mile trail system, taking what was a private property, whereby you'd be trespassing if you walked on it, and now creating a publicly accessible amenity. Over 50% of this property is permanent naturalized open space, 52% to be precise. That includes 3 new community parks that are interspersed throughout the community. We implemented a minimum greenbelt and buffer between all new and existing homes. Within that buffer, we worked with this body, Harold and others, to implement landscape density and maturity requirements to ensure privacy and screening, and further imposed use restrictions preventing structures from being constructed within the privacy greenbelt. I mentioned the 3 new community parks. We also added transit pass subsidies for new residents, such that we can incentivize the use of the bus rapid transit center located south of Ted Williams Parkway. So very briefly, most of you are very familiar with the project at this point, which includes 1,200 total residential units. That is a mix of for rent and for sale. It's approximately 60% for rent, 40% for sale. I mentioned the open space. If you add up the naturalized open space, the green belt, and the parks, it's over 110 acres, 70% of the property preserved permanently as open space. 3 new neighborhood parks, 8 acres, and that is a nearly $12 million investment in new public parks in the community. On-site affordable housing, 120 on-site affordable homes for essential workers and working families in the community. Native landscaping, we are removing old, non-native invasive species and critically maintaining the golf course, the former golf course. 50 feet, there's that minimum buffer between existing and new residences, and this project is located within a transit priority area. So I mentioned the open space, and there will be amenities throughout the open space network. We have very large swaths of open space, 12, 13, 15, and back up to 16. Again, areas that were formerly private, whereby you had to pay your 50 or 60 bucks to get in a golf cart and go there. These will be permanently maintained at no cost to existing homeowners and accessible to the public. Our 3 new public parks at areas 7, 13, and 16. And of course, the 6.5-mile trail network that connects all of these communities, all the existing and future residents, both shopping, transit, and job centers. So just a few images. This is a shot of the future improved condition of Chikorita Creek with some wayfinding signage, places for people to walk and enjoy the naturalized environment adjacent to the restored creek. Carmel Mountain Ranch really benefits, unlike many communities in the city of San Diego, with really nice existing infrastructure. So there are a number of existing bike lanes and facilities throughout the community, and we're looking forward to improving those as well. Walking paths. So what you see here is the relationship between the newly proposed trail, the new housing and existing housing, where again, open to the public to create that connectivity between the various areas of the existing community and all the amenities that exist, the recreation center, shopping, and jobs. There's a number of park areas planned. This is a shot of Unit 2, where we planned a park facility at the northern portion of that unit, again, flanked by the publicly accessible trail system on both sides. Finally, social spaces. This is a shot of the area adjacent to the existing clubhouse in Area 9 off Carmel Ridge that will provide a public plaza space for gatherings, food trucks perhaps, and other community activities. So this project has been over 2 years of dialogue and design revisions and updates, of course, with this body, the city of San Diego, and all of the various departments of the city. The draft EIR has been circulated for public comment, and we are anticipating hearings at the Planning Commission and the City Council this summer. And so with that, we're grateful for the opportunity to present the project to you this evening. Of course, look forward to answering any questions that you may have, and would be honored to have your support. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, I'm gonna thank you. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and, so what we're gonna do first is we're going to allow the board to make any comments, ask any questions they might have of you tonight. And then after the board has a chance to discuss amongst ourselves and with you, we will allow members of the public to weigh in as well. And so with that, I will request that board members keep their questions and comments as brief as possible, and of course, we're all going to be calm and respectful. So let's, I'm just going to go down the roster, and I'm going to yield any of my time and defer it to later possibly. Esther, do you have anything to add or ask at this time?
No, I'll pass.
Thank you. Ryan, do you have anything to add or ask at this time?
I pass.
Okay. Dan Thompson, anything to add or ask?
Nothing at this moment in time.
Okay. John Chu, anything?
Yeah, I want to ask Jonathan why we have to draft the EAR. We have a lot of comments. Why are you pursuing this while we wait responses to the draft?
Yeah, so it's at the discretion of the board and the chair, of course, to agendize items. Given that the environmental analysis has been completed at this point and the project has completed review at the city, we went ahead and sought a recommendation at this time.
And I will add that I reviewed City Council Policy 600-24 with members of the San Diego Planning Department and determined that the board was, I won't say we were bound to, but per City Council Policy 600-24, which does govern our operation, it stated that the board was to provide a recommendation. Actually, it said before the end of the EIR response period, which I found curious, but we are past that. And so I didn't see any reason not to proceed with this evening in terms of allowing Jonathan to request a recommendation from us. Rich Craigie.
No, I don't have anything additional.
Thank you. John Schroeder.
No, I don't have any questions.
Mark Clark.
I don't have any questions, but I do have some comments.
Go ahead.
So, Jonathan, with all due respect, you hammered home how much you engaged us, and I want to give you credit for engaging us, but you engaged us and you asked us questions. It would be like pulling up a new car and saying, hey, you get your choice of what color rims you want, but we're going to decide everything else, right? You want chrome or do you want black? And that's really what you asked us about. You said, we're not really going to take any kind of your input on the real big issue, which is the kind of housing and how much. And I understand you said, you went from 1,600 to 1,200, but I'm in sales too, Jonathan. And I know that tactic, right? Come in high, but always know that you're willing to come in lower. And so I think it's very disingenuous for you to continue to hammer home, whether it's in front of us, in front of the city council or anybody else, and tout that you received all this community input. Yes, but on things that are like nothing. I mean, what kind of trees we want? No, ask us about the kind of housing that goes with our neighborhood that's either going to make our neighborhood better or worse. And so you really didn't ask us that. You really didn't take our input on that, which in my opinion is the most important piece. And then the second comment I'll make is, especially if there's anybody still from the city council or from the supervisor's offices, people continue to talk about, the city of San Diego and the housing and the housing and the housing. I don't know what the exact square mileage is, right? But you've got a ton of apartments coming in on Poway Road. You got a ton of apartments coming in across Penasquitos. You've got this huge project in Mira Mesa that's approved. And now you have this project. The city of San Diego does not need more apartments. If you look at the vacancy rate of any city our size, most pundits will tell you that a rate of about 3.5% to 4% of vacancy rate is good for a city our size. Before COVID, that vacancy rate was in the 4s. And now with COVID, that rate is in the mid to high 5s. We don't need more apartments. We need single family homes that people can purchase, low income, right? Medium income places that people in our community can start to build equity. We keep talking about equity within our minority and underrepresented communities. How do young people build equity when all we're doing around the freaking entire city is building apartments and not something that's affordable condos, affordable small single family homes? So I apologize, Jonathan. I appreciate the efforts with asking us about what kind of shrubbery we want, but I find it, quite frankly, somewhat disingenuous because you didn't really take our advice on the harder things to get advice on. So I just saw my only comments. No need for any comment back or anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Michelle Mullen.
I have nothing at this time.
Thank you. Joseph Valencia.
Yes, Jonathan, thank you very much for a good presentation. I like it. I know your purpose of doing it. I just want to know, at what time we made comments on the EIR. Have you work on our comments and incorporate what we said? Jonathan.
So Joe, I was having a little difficulty hearing you there, but I think the question was related to the comments on the EIR, and the city will be responding to all comments received on the EIR, Joe.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that our comments are responded to.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. Kurt Carlson.
Yeah, hi, Jonathan. Nice presentation. However, it really hasn't done anything different from over a year ago. And, when you go before the Planning Commission and City Council, you need to owe up to that because the process has not been transparent. The process, as Mark stated, has been, you're basically just showing us options. You didn't cover the items in the community meeting. I mean, that were talked about August in 2019. And we talked about things like more parks and green space in the centralized areas of the golf course. You've got nothing up there except for detention basins and slopes. You took all the good flat area for development and instead of using it for much needed open space for parks. On lot 7, which is there next to Royal St. George, you have one of your parks, which is over 2 acres, that is in a sloped area that has really difficult ADA access. The buffer views with the actual homes and your details and on your guidelines, you never showed the nitty gritty. We asked for that on September 24, 2019 at the meeting. I think that was the meeting that I attended. And in terms of what we would want to see, we're a planned community, a master planned community, and your design guidelines are tailored to change the development to fit what you want, not what you learned from the community. It has nothing to do with what we say, it's what you want. We talked about matching, concern about the existing views. We talked about enlarging the easements. We want easements that could, if you're going to include these trails, they need to be landscaped and have plenty of space. Now what's happening is you're infringing on a lot of the safety, security, and sound of our backyards. How are you going to fix that? How are you going to handle that? There's no ADA access on a hilly terrain. How are you justifying bicycle use and pedestrian access all the way to the Sabre Springs station that's almost 2 miles away? It doesn't make sense. The consistency of housing types with the existing, we asked for that in this community meeting. You didn't give it to us. I think it was Doug Austin or Dennis Osuji, you mentioned what they said. Well, if you read our letter last July, we also stated what they said. And there's some consistency issues that we need to see. The innovation of this project. This is not an innovative project by any shape. Just because you cluster housing and trying to save open space, I mean, you can cluster and do less development and still save the same amount of housing, but instead you're increasing our traffic, infringing on our safety. You're putting walls of housing up on the ridgeline homes, and on your recent community plan amendment, you got rid of the charts that show the maps that show preserving views outside and inside to the Carmel Mountain Ranch area. You just totally took them away. And that's a good reason you did that, right? Because you're putting housing in front of those homes that have views. This fire safety thing, I still don't get it. I mean, we're in the highest ranked severe fire zone that you can be, and and you're choking in driveways that are one housing width away from the next driveway or next street road. That doesn't make sense to me. I can just see over there by when you come on to Ted Williams Parkway, kids going to school, the backup there is just going to be unbelievable, and apartments. So the setbacks and buffers don't work. I mean, when we went back in July 2nd, July 15th, 2020, we told you too much, too tall, too close, too transparent, too non-transparent. And we didn't get that. And so, you know, I'm still very disappointed. I know that in more ways than one, you're probably the messenger. So don't take this personal. I know I get a feeling you're probably not taking it personal, because this is something though that really affects our lives. And until you show a real genuine response to trimming down the things that we've asked or putting in the things that we've asked, you're not going to get a positive vote from our community. And we're going to do everything we can to vote what you're proposing today down. At least I am. I mean, I don't know how everybody else feels, but right now, that's where I'm coming from. I just don't see it. As a landscape architect, I'm kind of disappointed in what's being proposed from a site planning standpoint. And that's, sorry, Eric, I got off on the extreme, but that's about as much as I can say.
That's okay, Kurt. We appreciate it, and I think a lot of us yielded time, assuming that you would have these things covered, and we appreciate your comments and your passion. Majid Masharian.
I don't have anything to say.
Okay. Silva Salehi.
No comments.
Okay. John Chu, I'm coming back to you because you mentioned that there was something you wanted to add.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure we had more time later on, but since based upon what you're saying, I should just go now. So thanks, Jonathan. So I know you worked through from your side and we've worked from our side regarding our views. And for me personally, I am strongly supportive of housing equity across our community. I think one of the negatives of this particular project is that there is no deed restricted for sale. This project has, I think, 37.5% of housing for sale property versus 3/4, 75% in our current community. And within the ER, there was the only single alternative that was really feasible was remove all the housing from that TPA. And that just doesn't make sense to me. So I don't think that alternatives were done in a complete manner. There should have been investigate options that increase housing units throughout the community, but not necessarily in the exact spots that you wanted for the project, such as the TPA or in the community center. And it could have been a lower number of units on the rest of the golf course. Your particular project does not address the park deficiency, actually increases it. So we really should be reducing our deficiency from 20 acres to a lower number. You're actually increasing it by ½ acre. And in longer term, we're expecting to have more housing in our community center and multi-use zoning. And so right now, this project is basically saying we're going to remove our green space, put housing and vehicle infrastructure, and later we're going to tear up the parking lots over in the community center to put in green space. And that just doesn't make sense to me. And then the EIR, which I know you're not directly involved with, but there are deficiencies such as it doesn't adjust that there's 2,000 daily trips that are 10% more than evaluated in the ER. There's no fire evacuation plan for all the different housing being put in our community, in the wider community, not just in CMR. There's no freeway analysis, even though supposedly the numbers are exceeding what the city recommends. And noise mitigation that doesn't address construction within 100 feet of homes. So these are my concerns. I don't think they've been addressed. And I think you know what my vote's going to be. Thank you.
Okay. I will take just a minute to add that I concur with those who are talking about the need for true, affordable, potentially deed restricted homes in Carmel Mountain Ranch and in San Diego, and the lack of need for new rentals, frankly. As a realtor in San Diego for the past 17 years, I have been operating in many different market environments. And I can say that right now there is a true inventory, for sale inventory crisis. There is not enough inventory to go around and prices are skyrocketing. Homes are becoming, and that's great for homeowners, but it's terrible for buyers. It's terrible for first-time home buyers in particular. I'm seeing entry-level homes in Poway exceeding $850,000 now, where they were $650 to $725 last summer. So we're seeing the result of not enough for sale inventory. And this project, while it does provide some, is a drop in the bucket, and there's too much rental. Too much of this is rental. I don't understand why. And I'll leave it at that. And at this point, we've been around the board, and I will allow any public questions, and I will add that Michael Prinz with the planning department is here, and if anybody has any questions for him specifically regarding the community plan amendment, because that is essentially the I guess the heart of this thing is amending our community plan, as Kurt mentioned, to the amendment eliminates a lot of the discussion of views, and it amends the amount of parks, open space, et cetera. It's what allows this project to come into Carmel Mountain Ranch. So Michael is here from the planning department, and I will add that Michael is merely doing his job when he amends our community plan, but that is in my view anyway, the crux of what's happening here is not only the zoning change of the golf course property, but the amendment to our community plan is what allows this to come in here. So I'm going, let's see, Troy Dom, go ahead.
Yeah, I am on the agenda. I did want to make a brief comment as related to Jonathan's presentation. And thank you, Jonathan, for your presentation. I do want to point out that Jonathan states that they had 485 respondents in multiple meetings, and that's what's driving the process. And we have 14,000 residents in Carmel Mountain Ranch. So if you have 485 people, that's 3.4% of the people that you're listening to that are driving this proposal that you have. And yet you have lots of community leaders. I represent Carmel Mountain Ranch United. We have over 600 volunteers. You have a board that you're presenting to here today. There's the HOA, and I think there's widespread concern about little to no concessions as it relates to the number of units, as it relates to many of the items that Kurt had talked about. I also object to the open space calculation that you create. Calculating building footprints and stating that everything else beyond the building footprint is open space is very, very deceiving. That's not the way it works. I happen to live on Unit 6. I've seen a traffic study where you show 10 buildings being constructed on Unit 6, which is a 7-acre site. And you say that there's going to be 3 acres of building footprint. And I would suggest that 10 apartment buildings, 4 stories high on a 7-acre site leaves no open space, none on that whole, on that unit. And if you were to actually calculate, parking and all the rest of the infrastructure around, and realize that, what is open space? Open space is open space. It's not developed space. So when we look at 11 of the 18 holes that are being developed, you're leaving 7 holes that are being undeveloped, and 11 of the holes are being developed. And that's a true representation of what is happening in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. So I do have you on the agenda, and so am I to understand that you have an agenda item for us tonight as well, a presentation?
Just a brief comment subsequent to the vote.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so we do have, I'm scrolling through the comments, and I'm gonna, Harold is asking, does the board get a vote on the community plan amendments? Michael Prinz, are you available to answer that question?
Yes, the answer is yes. The action item tonight encompasses the community plan amendment. I understand there were a couple of comments pertaining to that, but the two are one and the same. So the amendment reflects the project, and the project implements the amendment. As it relates to the question from Mark in the chat, what changed in 30 years here in CMR to raise population by 25%? Our community plan was amended in 1984 to decrease population by 25% because of EIR concerns. Why increase now? So the increase is pertaining to the development project. The golf course was closed in 2018, and the community plan amendment initiation was brought forward by New Urban West to propose redesignation of the property to allow for residential, and then redesignate private recreation open space private recreation to a mixture of open space and park uses. That was obviously initiated by the Planning Commission, and then the project was since proceeded, and obviously that's been sort of the primary discussion. And so when that process sort of completed through both the city's review process and looking at the project specifically and sort of the public comment period, we as staff updated the maps, working with the applicant team, and some of the text language to reflect sort of what is being proposed as part of the project, and sort of the implementing documents, like both the master permit, the master plan development permit being established, as well as the design guidelines, which will guide future implementation of specific projects. So all of that sort of is precipitated, but I probably will just stop there, and I probably should have just said yes to your question, and can respond further as needed.
Thank you, Michael. So am I to understand then that with somebody making a motion to take up a yes or no vote to recommend the project as proposed, we are also voting on the zoning change and plan change?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So does that need to be specifically enumerated in the motion that's made, or is that just implied?
It's up to the maker of the motion in the group to determine. I mean, in terms of typically they're I shouldn't say typically, because it runs the gamut, but it's always better to include that in your motion, but at the same time understanding that the minutes will be recorded here in this discussion, that the project, the amendment, and the rezone will, they're all going to be heard concurrently by the decision makers. So it is all one project.
Yes, thank you. All right, looks like a couple of questions here. Can the allocated parking on the plans be later redeveloped to housing, considering near vicinity to MTS, near MTS require. I assume that the question being asked means, can more housing later be added to this project due to the proximity to TPA?
So the short answer is yes. The more complicated answer is it depends on what is being proposed, where is being proposed, and sort of what is being included. You know, there, and to that, you know, I can't answer the specifics of what that process would be, whether it would be allowed or not allowed, or sort of how that would actually be implemented.
Okay.
But there would be a process to, like there has been for here, to request that more housing be added. But the specifics of that I can't answer.
Okay. Brian Hollinsworth, I see that you had a question for Michael Prinz.
Yeah, thanks. So I had a question kind of around the timing, right? So we just went through a process with the parking garage recently, right? Where it went all the way to council and it passed through council. I haven't seen that particular property change hands, like as far as a property tax, you know, sale transfer go through. And so what I'm wondering is there some sort of like a delay from once the council makes a decision to when the community plan gets updated? Is it like a once a year the plan gets updated because, you know, we're having now a second change within a few months? Or what's the frequency and duration from timing? That's kind of my question.
So the community plan, I think you're referring to the previous amendment related to the park and ride. And so that was posted to the website following approval of the community plan amendment by City Council associated with that development project. In this instance, following the City Council hearing, whatever decision the City Council makes, if the project is approved or modified in some way, shape, or form, the community plan document will be amended, and the resolution amending that plan along with all of the text and figure changes would then be posted to the website subsequent to that. When specifically it gets posted, I think will sort of be a multifactorial in terms of the project itself, I believe, in terms of the rezone, and then ultimately you know, getting sort of final approvals and signatures related to that. You know, that could take another month or so. So you know, you're looking at like a couple months out, sort of generally speaking. I don't want to give a specific timeline, but it would be posted to the website, and that's what would be the document that would be in effect. Again, in this sense, sorry, I'll stop there.
Yeah, so the answer there is that the community plan amendments are basically within a few months of passage, or within a couple of months of passage from the city. And then like the general plan would of course need to be updated as well. Or is this like just an annual thing where everything kind of builds up through the year and then gets passed into the general plan?
So the resolution would be to amend the general plan and community plan concurrent with the development project. Those would be approved by City Council, again, assuming the project is approved and or modified and approved in some modification. The general plan, in this instance, the general plan, the amendment is an amendment to figure the LU-2, so that this land use and street systems map, basically showing on the map the change from open space to a mixture of residential, park, and open space. So that, in terms of when that gets posted, we typically do that sort of on an annual basis or a semi-annual basis, but it would be tied to the resolution associated with the plan amendment.
The second question had to do with a lot of the feedback you've heard from us, and is that we've never seen very specific plans. We've only heard generalities about where units would be placed. Has the city seen anything more detailed than what we've been able to review?
To my knowledge, no. All of the plan sets and information that the city has received is equivalent to what the community has received. So, you know, all of the project submittals that the city reviews are the same as those that the community has access to, and the planning group is reviewing and making their decision on.
So at this point, they're not fully baked, and the community is being asked to make a decision on plans that are not fully baked.
The way that I would defer to the applicant and Jonathan on this more specifically, but the way that I would sort of characterize it is that what's being asked is to change the land use designation and zoning, and then in this instance, what's being established are specific design guidelines, but there are not specific building permits or unit counts tied to the project, given the size of the site and sort of other considerations with sort of the implementation of the project. This is not uncommon for very large sites, especially sites that don't have, that sort of have a configuration similar to this. So, so I would just sort of say that is not an uncommon thing where future development is required to come in through a phased approach and further permitting processing or building permits through that process.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There's a question that looks like for Jonathan. And maybe this has already been answered in a different way, but I'll ask it anyway. It's from Dustin Leal. What is New Urban West's plan to address the community concerns brought up tonight and what was brought up in the draft EIR response? And I assume that's just we wait for the city to address the EIR comments, and then that'll determine whether or not more needs to be done on that document.
Yes, correct, Eric. So with respect to the EIR, city will be reviewing the comments and then requiring additional analysis if they determine that is required for compliance with the Environmental Quality Act.
Okay. And then how many street driveways and street lights would the additional dwellings require? I assume it's a lot. I don't know that you know the exact number.
Yeah, I don't have the exact figure off the top of my head. I'd be happy to get back to you with more information on that.
All right, Kurt, you have a question?
Yeah, for Michael, I was just, we said this is not an uncommon issue where plans or community amendments and rezoning is being done without a specific site plan. And that kind of bugs me in the sense that, it's when you're dealing with a vacant piece of land and there's not a whole lot around you, but in this case, you've got, over 600 single family homes that are right on the golf course. And I guess, Michael, how does that enter into the picture? This is a very unusual project. This is unique. This is something that Planning Commission recognized, at the initiation. And I guess my question to you is how can you justify putting 4 stories 50 feet away, back up against homes, putting an 8-foot trail in between that, and then trying to put landscape buffer in there? How does that happen? How does that get resolved in development services? I mean, to me, this seems like you're shoehorning something in and at the last minute. And I'm not quite understanding the planning process. How does something like our project be very common to projects that have happened past?
So couple of questions on that, and sorry if you, I don't know what people can hear. My daughter's in the other room sort of making loud noises, so apologize. We don't hear that, so you're okay, good. Okay, but I hear it, so it's distracting to me when I'm trying to do this. So. Yeah. But anyway, a couple things. So what came to my mind in terms of as a preface to your question, the Otay Mesa Community Plan and the Black Mountain Ranch Sub-Area Plan, which I have experience with in reviewing those, to your point, those included large sort of greenfield areas, and in most instances, they did not have development around them, though some did. And in a lot of instances, they developed amendments to the plan, which then required subsequent development services review, which relied upon the community plan, land use designation, and the design guidelines there. In some instances, they developed their own design guidelines, like for the perimeter properties in Black Mountain Ranch. And then those would then be required, subsequent permits would be required to develop those consistent with the design guidelines. So that is something that would be done here, and they would do it through what's called a substantial conformance review process to determine where development services reviewers determine that. What's being done here is, again, the master plan development permit and a design guidelines that would be adopted with the project where they would address those design concerns. Your concerns related to adjacency and the distance between sort of the new development and existing development have been noted, and the applicant has addressed them through the design guidelines, probably not to your satisfaction, but they have been sort of addressed through the design process. And ultimately, the regulations that are established through the permit, in addition to the regulations of the underlying zone and the policies of the design guidelines and the community plan, would all be utilized in the evaluation of a future development project that would go into the footprint that is established by both the amendment and the master permit. So that is sort of the process. I think where, from my understanding, where the applicant is at is that they do not have, there's not just one project that's ready to go today where it can sort of have all of that detail, and that it will likely come in phases. And so that is where you utilize the design guidelines and the permit to achieve consistency with sort of what is laid out.
Did you receive our red line guidelines, design guidelines that we commented on?
I received an earlier version of the guidelines. So I've received a couple of different things, and then I am in the process of actually reviewing to the point of the questions related to the environmental impact report. You know, I'm in the process, along with other staff, of reviewing the EIR letters and then responding to comments. And so to the extent that, you know, we did receive some of those, I had made requested changes pertaining to the design guidelines at various phases. They were, some of the comments were, you know, we worked through those, and staff had reached a point where the design guidelines were acceptable to city staff in order for the project to move forward.
Okay, because my understanding is that you were not sure that the design guidelines that were marked up by our community group were sent out, and I'm not sure if I ever heard, or we ever heard, that you got those guidelines. And then there were another set of guidelines that came out just right after, this was right around when COVID, you know, started rearing its ugly head. And a quick review of those comments on those design guidelines appeared that they weren't that much different. And so we maintained our existing comments and then resent those. So those comments are still valid, and we have been consistent through this entire process with New Urban West in stating those concerns time and time again. But, you know, tonight, part of that vote is also for the design guidelines, correct? Is this what you're saying is we're voting for the whole ball of wax tonight, pre-draft EIR comment resolutions, right?
Correct.
So, Eric, I don't think we're going to get much more information tonight, right? So if we're going to put it for a vote, I would motion take a vote on the proposal for the project as well as the community plan update.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, I agree. I think we're going to, I mean, we can keep talking about this. We're not going to get any, I mean, Michael Prinz can answer our questions. Jonathan Frankel can answer our questions. And I doubt that it's going to satisfy anybody's, you know, underlying concern about the project. So I I mean, I feel like it would be appropriate to fulfill the applicant's request and take this to a vote. And there is a question in the chat and from Leslie, I'm not sure Leslie's last name, but and it's asking, is the board being asked to vote on whether or not we would recommend rezoning the golf course and amending the community plan? And the answer is yes, that's what we're being asked to do tonight. And the second part of her question is, you know, can they add more housing to it once the zoning and community plan is amended? And my answer to that is I don't know, but it at this juncture, that doesn't necessarily matter for our purposes here tonight in terms of what we're taking up, which is whether or not to recommend what's currently proposed to the City Planning Commission.
I would just add to that, Eric, that yes, the project before you tonight is the request to approve, or what the applicant is requesting, Jonathan, is approval of the Trails of Carmel Mountain Ranch development project and all of the associated entitlements that accompany that, including the amendment to the Carmel Mountain Ranch community plan, a rezone of the site, and approval of all of the discretionary actions related to permitting, including, if I recall correctly, master plan development permit and design guidelines. The question I answered as it pertains to sort of future housing is completely speculative, and this would not sort of de facto allow them to move forward with future housing. They would need to then resubmit through the process, and that would then need to be reevaluated by city staff to determine what process that would need to go through. So they cannot, to my knowledge, just build more housing on top of what is being presented tonight without then having to go back, review whether or not that's possible, and go through, you know, additional steps similar to the ones that they've already undertaken through this amendment process.
Thank you. So John Chu, I'm sorry, was that a specific motion to move to vote?
Yes. Okay.
And there's a public, before I ask for a second to that, there's a Bruce Forina. Bruce has, and I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of your last name, Bruce, but will you offer public comments? That is what we're doing now and what we've been doing. And if you have a comment, you are free to unmute and make the comment, although we are over our time and the board is pretty much, I think we're where we need to be in terms of our position on this, I believe. So you can feel free to make a comment at this point or just allow us to move forward with our work. So if you want to unmute and say something, go for it. Please keep it brief.
Thank you. I'll just listen in. I'll just hit my mute button. Thank you.
Okay, Bruce, thank you for being here. Okay, so do I have a second to John's motion to allow the board to vote and provide a formal recommendation on this project as proposed?
Can we restate the motion so we're clear?
John, would you do that for us?
Just to vote the vote for, it would either approve the project as well as community plan updates and all the associated items that Michael identified. And a vote for no would be to reject the project.
Right. So John's motion is a yes vote would be to amend our community plan, to approve the project as proposed, including the community plan amendment, zoning, and the whole ball of wax. So that's the motion on the floor.
That includes the design guidelines, correct?
Well, the project encompasses all of that. So what we're voting on right now is to recommend or not recommend the project. And as I understand it, as the motion was stated, a yes vote means we approve, a no vote means we do not approve. And either way, the recommendation will be forwarded to the City Planning Commission. So there's a motion on the floor And I'm looking for a second.
I second the motion.
Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded to move this to a vote. So at this time, what I'm going to do is move through the roster. And well, since I'm the chairperson, I'll save my vote for last, but we'll start with, I'm just gonna go right down the line here. Esther Berry.
I vote no.
Thank you. Ryan Yamasaki.
I vote no.
You garbled a little bit there. Can you, I mean, I think I heard what you said, but.
I vote no.
Thank you. We got that loud and clear, just making sure for the recording. Dan Thompson.
My vote is no.
Thank you. John Chu.
Vote is no.
Thank you. Rich Craigie.
No.
Thank you. John Schroeder.
No.
Thank you. Mark Clark.
My vote is no.
Thank you. Michelle Mullen.
I vote no.
Thank you. Joseph Valencia. Joseph.
No.
So you're voting no. Is that
No.
correct?
Yes. Yes.
Your vote is no. Okay. Thank you.
My vote is no.
Okay, we got it. Thank you. Kurt Carlson.
My vote is no.
Thank you. Majid Mosharian.
My vote is no.
Thank you. Silva Salehi.
My vote is no.
And that leaves me, and my vote is also no on the recommendation, or the, I vote no, not to recommend this project, or to recommend that this project not move forward with regard to our recommendation to the San Diego City Planning Commission and City Council. So with that, it is a unanimous vote to deny the project as proposed, 12-0, with no abstentions and all board members present. So that's that's the end of that, as it were. 13. Do we have, am I counting wrong? We have 13?
13.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm not counting myself. Sorry. Sorry, folks. Okay, let me restate.
You matter too, Eric. You matter too.
Thank you. 13-0 against, 13-0 to not recommend the project to the City Council, City Planning Commission. So that is a unanimous 13-0 vote of our board in this matter at this time. So that's the end of this agenda item for tonight. There's going to be a lot more discussion about this project, and I'm sure, you know, as it moves through the rest of the process, City Planning Commission, City Council, and then if it is approved, you know, it's going to be there's going to be a lot more discussion. So it's not the last we'll hear of it, but certainly we're done with it for tonight. So with that, I would say, oh, we have Troy Dahm from CMR United, and he's next on our agenda. And then we got a couple of housekeeping items. So, well, the appointment of board members a little more dramatic than housekeeping items, but we'll get to that at the end.
Thank you, Eric. I'll be very brief. And first of all, Michael, thank you for attending tonight. I think for the record, I think it's important that we realize that we've not had any city planning people attend our meeting. This is the largest, my understanding, one of the largest infill developments in the past couple of decades in our city. And I think that's a travesty that nobody has shown up from the Planning Commission. This really shouldn't be that way. You know, I think to myself often, what has happened to city government? You know, government for the people, by the people. That's not what we have here. What we have is something very different. What we have is a developer telling the city, this is what we want to do. And then we have the city responding to say, well, let's change to advocate to what the developer wants. And really, cities should be looking at how they're going to lay out their cities, and then developers should be responding to that, not vice versa. And in the end, you've got 485 people that were surveyed by the developer. You've got an entire community council here saying no. You've got an entire community, CMR United, has got over 2,000 people that said that they're not interested in this, but nobody listens to that. There seems to be collusion between the developer and the city to push an agenda and not listen to its people. And that's very problematic for me. And with that, on behalf of Carmel Mountain Ranch United, I'll say I'm very, very disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. And thank you for your continued work on behalf of Carmel Mountain Ranch. Okay, so, so I lost my agenda. Here we go. All right, so I've got nothing on the chair's report tonight, nothing on old business, nothing on new business. I would like to move now to appointment of board members. And the decision was made in conjunction with, well, in consultation with people at the city planning department and the community planners committee and guidance from the city. The board has more vacant seats than we do applicants or candidates for election. So during the COVID situation, we're not meeting in person, and therefore voting is somewhat problematic. We had a couple of ideas and ways we could have done paper balloting. However, with the situation as it exists, again, number of candidates is exceeded by the number of vacancies, and therefore it would have only required, you know, one paper vote to get anybody in. So what we're going to do is do this by appointment, and that just makes it clean and easy. And what's happening here are we have basically what I'm going to do here is I've published this list in a couple of different ways in a couple of different places. I'll read it into the record again. We have myself up for re-election, and my reappointment by this board. And I will add that members up for re-election shouldn't vote, I guess, although that would reduce us below a quorum. It's complicated, but I think we're gonna muddle through. So I am up for re-election slash appointment, and these seats are all expiring this month, 2021, and the appointed seats would run for 2 years through March 2023, at which time I would assume we're going to be meeting in person and able to hold a regular election. So I am up for reappointment. Esther Berry and Ryan Yamasaki have stated that they do not wish to be reappointed. So we absolutely thank them for their service to this board. And I will say personally, it's been my great honor, privilege, and pleasure to work with both of you throughout a number of years, even prior to the board's reinstatement in October of 2018. Esther, Ryan, and I, and Kurt at times, and if I'm forgetting anybody, I'm sorry. It's late and I'm tired, but in any event, we've been around a while, and I appreciate everything that you've done to help me personally, the board, and Carmel Mountain Ranch. So your service is to be applauded and recognized. And you know, I'll give you a silent COVID Zoom round of applause on that. So I am up for re-election. John Chu has stated that he would like to be re-elected to his seat. John Schroeder would like to be re-elected to his seat. Joseph Valencia would like to be re-elected to his seat. So that's 4. And we have 2 members of the community, Larry Fontaine, who has been verified as a resident slash homeowner here in Carmel Mountain Ranch. And Bruce Bergman has also stated his interest in being on our board, and he is verified as a resident homeowner here in Carmel Mountain Ranch. And I also have Dustin Leal, who's expressed interest in being appointed. Let me quickly, Dustin, can you unmute yourself just quickly, please? Are you there?
Hey, Eric. Can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you. So tonight you're attending your first meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, I usually attended, but only on the Facebook page.
Oh, I see. Okay,
yeah.
so you've actually, can you confirm that you have witnessed 2 consecutive meetings?
I don't know that I can. I don't know how you can look at.
Well,
the
I mean,
history,
just
but maybe.
verbally.
Oh yes.
All right. Okay, that's beautiful. That's good enough. You've been to. I mean, if you're watching on Facebook, you're attending the meeting. The requirement isn't that you're an active participant.
Oh, okay.
So, all right. So with that, we have Dustin Leal, we have Bruce Bergman, we have Larry Fontaine, we have Joseph Valencia, John Schroeder, John Chu, and Eric Edelman, all seeking appointment and or reappointment. So let's have somebody who's not up for reelection or reappointment motion.
Hey, I'll make that motion. All 7 members that you just said. I make a motion that we appoint all 7.
I second that.
Okay, and all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so are there any members of the board who are not up for election or appointment opposed or abstaining? Okay, that sounds like a no. And for any community members in attendance, I will give you the opportunity to object or anything that you want to do at this point, just to be really clear that this is a fair and open process. Dustin is referred to as the grape man, and I do remember that.
Hey, Eric, are we required to nominate you and strap you back in the chair position?
Yeah, I think that happens next month. Yes, so the answer is yes. I mean, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be me. Anybody else who, wants to make a motion that somebody else be nominated, it's open. However, I have received, it seems like people are interested in having me continue in the position, which I'm willing to do. So that'll happen at next month's meeting. We will seat all of the reappointed / elected board members and the new board members. And so we did it this way at the end of the meeting so that the current board could take up the vote that was before us tonight. And somewhat appropriate, I suppose, that some of our outgoing members got a chance to vote on this project tonight. Okay, so I've heard no objection from the community. We have unanimous consent from the board. So I would say that with that, those board members are either reappointed for 2-year terms and or appointed to new 2-year terms. And that gives us, let's see, we lost 2. Well, I'll have to go back and do the count. I think we're either at 12 or maybe 13 now. I think we're still at 13. So that's good. That means we have two vacancies. And if somebody comes along and wants to talk to us about an appointment to one of those, the more the merrier. Okay, so with that, I think let me get back to the agenda here. Michael, are you still with us? maybe not. Okay, that's fine.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry,
okay,
I was.
So we did our board appointment. You see any problem with the way that was done?
You know, again, without looking sort of in full detail, I mean, if there were less candidates than open seats, then I believe you should be okay. So.
Yep, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you for confirming as much as you possibly can in that. All right, well, with that, we have nothing else tonight. So I will say thank you for attending. We had a lot of participation, spirited discussion this evening, and our recommendation will be forwarded to the City Planning Commission and all other interested parties. So unless there's anything else, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting until April 14th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. with the Zoom information to be forthcoming. All right. We're adjourned. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Eric, for all your work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, everybody.
Everyone.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.